I just got finished with this large cigar ashtray and I'm really happy with how it turned out. This was a couple firsts for me. My first time working with elm, my first time trying to make these really deep grooves for the cigar rests, and also my first time trying to incorporate this live edge into a cigar ashtray, but I'm really pleased with the end result. I've got a really similar piece of elm right here and I want to take you guys through the process of how I turn something rough like this into a finished product. First thing I want to do here, there's quite a bit of dried mud on the edge here. I want to go ahead and remove that. So I'm going to use a combination of this wire brush, 120 grit sandpaper, and for the really stubborn parts, I'm going to use this carving tool. At the moment, I don't really have a better way of smoothing this rough surface, so I'm just going to use 40 grit sandpaper and then some 60 grit, and that should get this surface to a level where I'm comfortable, and when I actually mark this up with pencil, it'll actually show up. First thing that I want to mark on this is the inside edge to the ashtray. Because I do want it to follow the natural edge of this piece of wood, I'm actually going to use this to mark it up. And the distance I have between these 2 points is 2 1/8 inch. I had a little bit of a marking mistake. I forgot to tighten this all the way down before I started tracing that profile. So this lighter line was my original mark, and by the time I got all the way down here, it was definitely way off. So off camera, I just went ahead and fixed my mistake, and this darker line is actually going to be the profile that I want. The next marks I want to put on this are for the cigar rests. Because this is going to have 3 cigar rests, I've set this to a 120-degree angle. I'm going to start right here and then mark all the way to this point. This is just about the center of this piece. I made a slight change to the position of the cigar rest. I wasn't really a fan of how this one entered the middle. I felt like that was a weird angle. So I just went ahead and moved it over slightly, and I like that a lot better. And then I just changed the position of the other 2 as well. I have a little mark where I want my final depth to be, so when I set up the drill press, I just made sure the point on that Forstner bit is what lines up with that mark. I'm going to be drilling out these cigar rests. I want them to be a 1/2 inch deep. So I'm actually going to use an inch Forstner bit, and I marked a little stop mark right here. So hopefully that'll get me just barely past that line so I don't have a bunch of tear out. To make this method work, I'm actually going to be putting a sacrificial piece of wood on top. Half of the bit's going to be going into this elm. The other half is going to be going into this scrap wood. The biggest issue with this method is because I am hand drilling this, I won't be able to see where the bit's at, so I might have a little bit of bit drift. The cigar rests are cut. They are a little bit off the lines they had originally marked. The most notable is probably that one, but I think it should be fine because this is a natural edge and not straight edges. I don't think it'll be that noticeable, and I still think it'll look good. Next step is going to be cleaning out this inside portion. It's going to be a 3-part process. The first of which is going to be using this small router to take the inside edge and get it closer to that pencil line that I already have drawn out. I'm gonna take the router, make a couple more passes until I'm at a depth that's just below these cigar rests. Got a rough cut of the inside profile, just below these cigar rests. Now I'm gonna be working on this bottom, getting it to the final depth, and that's gonna be just below the points on the Forstner bit, so it's a nice flat bottom. I'm just going to be taking the rest of this material off and putting that round corner on at the same time using this bit. Probably not a good idea to do it all at the same time, but I'm going to take it slow and just take off little bits of material at a time, and it should be fine. I went ahead and adjusted the depth on my router so I can get that last little bit right there, and it's not so much of a ridge. Now to get this piece cleaned up, I'm gonna start with this inside portion. Just gotta smooth this bottom down and get these burn marks removed. I'm gonna use this pneumatic sander. This should do most of the work, but for the spots that this can't reach, I'm actually gonna use this sanding pad that I made on this drill, and that should get those corners really good. Now I'm going to go ahead and sand these cigar rests. I'm just going to use this attachment for my drill. And because of the way the drill spins, on this side right here, it does like to roll up and out of the cigar rest. So to try and prevent that, I've got a block of wood here. Before I finish this piece, I want to go ahead and fill these little voids here in the center. And I had a little bit of a dilemma on picking the right wood filler. Because this piece does have rings that are alternating dark and light, I feel like the light rings more closely resemble this natural wood filler, whereas the dark ones more closely resemble the walnut. But this is kind of a heavily dark area, so I think I'm just going to use the walnut, and hopefully it turns out good and doesn't look like trash. All right, I'm all done with that wood filler. Got it sanded down smooth. It actually turned out better than I was expecting. It's not too noticeable. I just hope that when I finish it with this boiled linseed oil, it doesn't make it pop and make it stand out more. I'm pretty much done with this ashtray. The only thing I have left to do now is I'm going to apply 2 coats of this polyacrylic, and that's going to take it from this dull finish, give it a little bit more of a shine, and that's also going to protect the surface of the wood from the ashes of the cigars. As far as using the walnut wood filler, I'll bring you guys in for a closer look because that oil really did darken up that wood filler quite a bit, more than I was expecting. But I still think it was the right choice to use the walnut wood filler because to me, I think it could pass as an imperfection, a little dark spot in the wood. Whereas if I was to use that natural wood filler, I think it would have lightened it up too much. And for this piece, I think it would have made it look unnatural. As a final note, if anyone has a suggestion on a better finish for these wooden cigar ashtrays, I would love to hear it. I just personally use this polyacrylic because that's what I'm used to. And I haven't had any issues personally with that wood finish being ruined in any way. Because of the way cigars are supposed to be smoked, the ash falling into the ashtray portion is going to be relatively cool, so you shouldn't have any issues with that finish getting ruined. Whereas if you were to be using this for something like cigarettes and actually putting it out on the surface, that would definitely ruin the finish, and I don't recommend that. Like always, thanks for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Maybe some of you even found it a little bit helpful, and I'll see you on the next one.